this is a part of the business that, like I said, that's needed to watch one of your close friends develop and grow into a head coach, and then now you obviously have an opportunity to sit alongside him and help him build this thing, help him take this program to the next level. So that's something that we're both excited about, that I'm excited about.
Hi, I'm Corey Baldwin.
And I'm Dan Searle, and we're back with a new Off the Beaten Path, a podcast for basketball coaches living in obscurity, working in obscurity, and even those like today's guests who are making it out of obscurity.
And it's a place where we do a lot of storytelling. Some of the stories are true. We connect, reconnect, we learn a little, and then we have food for thought and food for the belly. And today will be one of my favorite guests we've had. I guess I'm not supposed to say that right, but Eric Wilson, or as I always call him, E. And Eric, the reason one of my faves is he was an assistant with me my last year at Truett, and that was a crazy year. And without Eric, I don't even know if I'd still be in coaching. So I enjoyed having him around, and really became part of the family. But we're going to learn a lot about his journey being, one of those guys who the obscurity part for him, even as a player, having to walk on and then making it out of obscurity. I won't steal the story, but becoming a starter and all those things. So we're gonna have a good time with him today. So let's get started, Eric. Tell us about that journey. Give us where you're from and how basketball started in your life, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah. Well, first off, man, appreciate you guys for having me on. I got the utmost respect for you both. And CB, you kind of mentioned you don't know if you could have made it through that season without me. I definitely sure couldn't have made it through without you and your family. So appreciate you guys. And I appreciate that journey. But yeah, man, my name's Eric Wilson. I'm from small town. This is located a little northwest of Charlotte, Lincoln, North Carolina. Small little country town right near Lake Norman. But I started playing basketball at a young age. Like all kids, I played everything that my mom would put in front of me: baseball, basketball, football, and so on and so forth. And I was a big had uncles that were big Tar Heel fans, so I kind of fell in love with the Heels at a young age, and that's kind of what fueled me wanting to play. And through my adolescent years, middle school, high school, so on and so forth, and played a lot. Played it, like I said, everything, and I was one thing. I was a really, really big football guy. I love football and still do to this day. So I kind of split hairs between both of those, going through high school and played both, and then kind of got to the end of the road there, and I kind of had to make a decision as to which one I wanted to do at the next level. And part of me wanted to play football, and still part of me still wish I would have, but I love playing hoops, and so I decided to I wanted to venture down that road, and I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to be recruited walk-on at Western Carolina. Had a lot of Division II stuff come out of the area, but I just wanted to kind of take a crack at seeing if I could play on that level. And I had a great respect for the Southern Conference. It was a conference that was kind of based in the Carolinas and near where I was from. So give my mom and my family and friends an opportunity to continue to see me play. So I love the league, and the Catamounts gave me an opportunity there, and kind of away we went. Started my first year there as a walk-on, and the grind and rigors of that is a whole story in itself. But I just kind of stayed with it, kept working, and so on and so forth. And at the end of kind of towards the middle of that year, I started to kind of make my way into the rotation and started playing. And as the season went along, I became a rotation guy. And I thought that spring was going to be my year to be on scholarship, and the business kind of got me in terms of had a coaching change there, and kind of walked in Larry Hunter, which was kind of a godsend for me, because that pretty much started my journey, as a collegiate player, and then kind of sprungboard me into collegiate coaching as well. But I was able to play 3 years for Coach Hunter. I was able to earn a scholarship from him midway through my second year as a sophomore. Started games, kind of became a hard-nosed, tough defender. I wasn't a great player by any stretch, but I could try to go out there and guard some folk. I could dive on the floor. I could take a couple charges, and and he kind of liked that deal, and so I kind of fit that mantra. But I enjoyed my playing experience, enjoyed my career there, and
Let's stay with your plan for just a second. And you hustle and you get on the floor, and coaches end up appreciating that. But right before that, you say you take a walk-on spot.
Mhm.
Why did you do the walk-on role? Was it I need to be at Division I, and that's why I'm going to take this gamble? I think this will be a path for me, or you just believed in yourself, or why weren't you playing at a D3 or a D2 that was giving you an opportunity? Why walk on?
Probably a little bit of all three of that, Cyril. Just I wanted that opportunity to play at that level. Played on a pretty good AAU team in my high school career. Played for the Charlotte Royals, and I was amongst a lot of really, really good players that were going a lot of really good places. And as a kid, sometimes you're around some of that noise and static. You kind of feel like you should be on that level as well. And so, I don't know if it was the smartest thing to do, but I kind of betted on myself, and I believed in myself, and I thought that I could get it done at that level, and I could play and contribute, and I guess I rolled the dice and took a gamble. But I was
Who was the coach that you played for, Eric?
my original coach. Unbelievable. I was recruited by an unbelievable guy by the name of Mike Kraft, who is a big time high school coach now in Charlotte. But he's really the one that gave me opportunity. I kind of was flirting around between two different schools. The two mountain schools, to be honest. Appalachian State, which is the arch rival of Western Carolina, but I kind of just really hit it off with Coach Kraft and his staff. The head coach at that time was a guy by the name of Steve Serena, who had been there for quite a while. Had some really good players. Had Kevin Martin in the program, just before I got there, who was a pro, and so they'd done a admirable job. But I was first originally there with Steve Serena, and Mike Kraft was a guy who kind of put me in place there. And like I said,
and just to make the connections, as Corey always says, we got to name drop and connect dots. The Sharina name has come up on the podcast before when we had Jason Zimmerman on from the Davidson to Emory days, among other things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was cut from that Davidson cloth. I think he did some time at Vanderbilt too, if I don't make a mistake. But Coach Serena was my first head coach and first collegiate coach.
Hey, Eric, take us through, with the coaching change. How was the change with, two different coaches? We know that part, but what were some of the differences?
One of the big differences was, just in, from what I can remember, it was just kind of like a bolt of energy, a fresh air that kind of walked in the building when Coach Hunter had got there. And nothing against their former staff, but they did a good job and done some good things. But the detail that Coach Hunter and that staff that he first put into place, they kind of walked in the door. And anytime, you have a coaching change, man, the culture switches, and he was hard on us. Not to say that Coach Serena wasn't, but it was just a different kind of hard. And Coach Hunter was a relentless worker, like a relentless grinder. So, when we would he was at everything. He was involved in everything. And now that I'm on this side coaching, it's almost like, man, I don't know how he done it, because he had his hand in every conditioning, every weights, every meeting. He was at study halls, and obviously he was really setting the tone for what that program will become, over the next, 8 to 10 years, especially when we got rolling, got good. But I would say probably the attention to detail that happened. And, we were, again, and some of the guys even before me who had been under the other regime for 2-3 years, once Coach Hunter came in, man, it was just a 360 in the way he approached everything. But for me, it was good because, I got a fresh start. When he walked in the door, man, he told us, 1 through 15, 1 through however many guys we had, like everybody's on an equal playing field. And for me, a guy at that particular time who was just trying to figure it out, who was trying to earn, a scholarship, trying to fight my way through, like that was music to my ears, because it was just, we all were on an equal surface, and it was, the best handful of guys are going to play, and the hardest working guys are going to play. And so, that was music to my ears. And so, we instantly hit it off with our personalities and the way he came in and changed the culture of that program.
What was it? What was it like when, now with social media, the announcements for scholarships and all of that? How was it for you? How did they tell you and communicate to you that you got
I
your
feel
scholarship?
well. I kind of had two of those instances, man. And this is a really good story. But the first instance I had was my freshman year when I went from, I'm like a lot of those freshmen who came in, a lot of guys, highly talented. You got a lot of stats, I scored nearly 2,000 points in high school. So I come in thinking I can play a little bit, right? And so once I get there, we pass out uniforms and so on and so forth. And I didn't know this before I had signed on board. They didn't put my name on the back of my jersey. Like they didn't do that for non-scholarship players. And so I can remember being in the locker room and like it's like 6 of us freshmen, like we all excited about getting our new uniforms. We're ready for picture day and we're taking pictures with the name, like because none of us, in high school, you don't got the name on the back of your jersey. At least not then. Now it's a little different, but I can remember, man, getting my uniform and like turning it over, like what's going on, like. And so the rest of my class is so it was a low blow, man. But tell you that part of the story to tell you like the first, like I've arrived in college basketball story was once I finally cracked the rotation and began to play, and like I'm playing in games, not crazy minutes, but I'm playing, 12 to 14, 16, 18 minutes game. And I'm out there with no name on the back of my jersey. Like, so they're like, who is this kid? I'm out there diving on the floor, guarding, be like, who is this kid? And so long story short, about 5-6 games in, we were at pregame meal and my staff, that former staff, Sharina and Coach Kraft, those guys, they kind of addressed the team during our pregame meal and was like, man, we got a guy that's been busting his butt working. And so he throws me all 3 of my uniforms and they went and got the name put on the back. So that was my first kind of I made it deal in terms of college basketball.
Recognition, I got this. Yep, I deserve to be here. I earned it.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah,
So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
fast forward another year from that. Now I'm starting, like I start the season as a sophomore, starting games. I'm still on non-scholarship and I'm playing and doing some stuff. And then it wasn't a big, like you see now with the big announcement and so on and so forth. It was more like we had just beat, I want to say UNC Asheville or somebody. I had a solid game and Coach Hunter just walked in the locker room and I'm drenched in sweat, about to get in the shower and handed me a sheet of papers and we're like, here's your scholarship. And so the guys that were beside me saw it and kind of congratulated me and whatever. But it was more like, here it is, sign the papers, and now you guys have 6 a.m. wakes tomorrow. So that was kind of that's probably typical Larry Hunter. Ain't a whole lot of glitz or glamour to it, getting to the business. And so, but nevertheless, man, I didn't care how it went down. I was just happy to have it.
Congratulations. Exactly. Well, I mean, you earned it. And I'll say that again. I'd love to hear that story.
So now tell us, before we go into your coaching path, I know you were a guy who got to guard Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that and the experience and seeing how unbelievable he's became and everything.
Well, I mean, I guess you could say I guarded him. I ain't gonna say that. I was just out there with a lot of other guys, kind of in, just in the mix. But he was terrific then at Davidson, and I don't know what a lot of people may not know, but Davidson was a well-oiled juggernaut prior to him even coming. They were really, really good. Even before that, they had a big-time point guard by the name of Jason Richards, who was a borderline NBA player. Like, their program was, really established, and they were really, really good even before he got there. And then once they added him, it kind of just took off to another level. But those early years, man, he was a frail, skinny, 6'2" kind of kid, and you thought you could rough him up and be physical with him and so on and so forth. But they did such a good job with the system and what they ran for him, and then he was just an unbelievable talent. And little did I or anybody else in the world know how transcendent he would end up becoming, in the game of basketball. But what I can remember from those days was obviously trying to be heavily in tune to the scout report and be connected on all of, the screens and trying to take away his airspace and get up under him and be physical. But none of that stuff worked, man. That guy could shoot it from wherever he wanted to. They had a great, had other really good players around him. But you could tell then that there was something different about him. He was special, this special. I'd be lying if any of us, knew that. But he was a tremendous talent, but he was amongst a couple. It was a couple really good guards in the league, man. Charleston had a guy by the name of Andrew Gowlock, a Georgia guy, Stone Mountain guy, who was an exceptional scorer as well, kind of the same class as him, and there were some other guys, but Steph was, Steph was pretty special, man. The day he walked in the door at Davidson, and obviously, man, we've seen how transcendent he is and how special he really is at the NBA level as well.
You say there was something special, and you could tell then with Steph. Take it to where you are now. You're recruiting. You're out watching high school games, travel ball games. What are you looking for? What's something special? What's an indicator that says this guy could be really good at Presbyterian? This guy could be really good at where I'm coaching right now.
Obviously you look, you see guys, man, you're looking for, talented dudes or whatever. But for us and people here, for Coach Farrell and the program, and even guys I work for, man, the character of these dudes is very, very important. I had a mentor and a great friend who I kind of stole some advice from, but he told me some years ago, a guy by the name of CY down at Florida State, CY Young, he's like, you recruit high character gym rats, and sometimes maybe they're not the best player, but they high in character and they want to work gym rats. Like, those guys gonna become great players, and that's something he kind of told me, 5-6 years ago in conversation. That's something that I kind of try to take, kind of put in my back pocket when I go watch these kids and evaluate them. Because, and I've worked several jobs that probably not gonna get the most talented kid, but if you get the right kid, the right fit, who's about the right stuff, who works at it, who wants to become a player, and then you pour into those individuals, man, you can create something really special, and that's what Coach Farrell and the rest of these guys over here at Presbyterian have done, and so we're trying to continue to do the same thing.
Do you do that by talking to the kid's math teacher? Do you watch him on the bench in travel ball? Where do you get that feel for that character?
A little bit, the longer you do it, man, your gut speaks to you, your spirit, your soul speak to you, so you have a hunch. But like the something you just mentioned, man, you contact and touch as many people around you as you can. You watch and you evaluate everything. You watch how a kid warms up. You watch how a kid obviously plays, but you watch him interact with his teammates. You watch him interact with officials. You watch him interact with his coaches. You watch how he maneuvers after the game. Is he a kid that, is, their water bottles and things loose? Is he a kid that's willing to pick stuff up, clean up the bench area? How does he carry himself? So I think you evaluate that character stuff, long before the kid plays. A lot of stuff that goes into it. Your conversations, what the kids post on social media, what the family, even that, the inner circle, like, you recruiting them people as well, and some of their characters as well. So, you might call a math teacher, you might call a guidance counselor, or, once you spend some time in the high school, talk to the lunch lady. How was so-and-so at lunch? You pick up all
the lunch lady.
I think all of that stuff kind of goes into it when you talk about, you're trying to recruit a kid, you're trying to get to learn a guy and learn who he is as a person. So, there's a lot of different avenues to go down there, but, you just try to check off as many of those boxes as you can.
All right, so let's go on the journey now. We're talking about you out recruiting. So you finished playing at Western Carolina, and did you know right away, hey, I'm coaching?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was one of those guys too. At the end of your career, you're trying to figure out what's going on, and you're trying to figure out, do you want to try to venture off and continue to play those opportunities, available for you? What career path, or use your degree? And I was kind of in limbo. Part of me wanted to, to try, just like, coming out of high school, and give my shot at, trying to go be a pro and go travel the world and play a little basketball and so on and so forth. And there were some opportunities that they had presented themselves, nothing of a substantial, amount of money, anything like that. But so I kind of mulled those situations as opportunities. At the time when I got out of school, man, I was back in my hometown. I was actually a manager at a shoe store. So after I graduated, I kind of came home, need to make a little money while I was home, kind of figuring out what I was doing. I was still working out, so on and so forth. And I had an itch to coach. I knew maybe somewhere down the road. I didn't know how long or how far. At that particular time, like I said, I'm 22, 23 years old, 23 maybe. So still trying to figure out life. And a really good friend, close friend of mine uh, who I've known since I was about 9 years old, a guy by the name of Dip Metris. He was a big time head coach and was at Belmont Abbey at the time. And that university is probably 15 minutes from my house. So I spent a lot of time in his gyms as a young kid at his basketball camps, coming to play pickup with his guys through high school, watching his team play. So he and I had developed a relationship over the years. And like I said, I probably known him since I was 8, 9 years old. He got me a call out the blue, kind of what you're doing, so on and so forth. And I kind of talked to him about my itch to want to coach and this and the third. And he said, well, there's a guy I know that's looking for an assistant. I don't know if you'd be interested. And I said, well, who is the guy and where is he? He said, it's Corey Baldwin, and it's a junior college in near Atlanta. I heard near Atlanta. I said, oh, yeah.
Near Atlanta.
Yeah. And so, the funny part is I ain't hear the near part. I just heard Atlanta. And so I said, yeah. I said, that might not be bad. And so I jump on the internet, I Google it, and he and I connect. And so I end up making a ride down to Cleveland, Georgia. And, I walk in the gym and we talk, and I watch his kid's condition, and it's hot, man. They're running them guys around a soccer field, and I'm watching the guys go. And so like I said, I felt a good energy, a good spirit amongst what he was doing in the program. And so, and gave me some time to think about it. I drive back home, and maybe a couple of days later, I call him and say, I wanted to be a part of what he had going on. And so that's kind of what led me to Truett McConnell.
And ended up being the last year of junior college at Truett.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was kind of a neat deal because they had a long history of playing junior college. Wiggins, who played in the NBA and played at Florida State, was Truett McConnell Bear way back when. So, Truett had a little bit of history, and it was neat. I remember that day Eric came, we were running outside, man. It was hot.
Yes, it was.
It was hot.
Yes, it was.
I thought we might run them off.
Yeah. What the funny part though was I never that's when I first got there. I remember him saying near Atlanta because I didn't feel like I was nowhere near it. But nevertheless, man, like I said, I just really had a good rapport and a good vibe with CB, and so I was happy to be there. It was great. It was an unbelievable year for me. Unbelievable year.
Let's stick with that. Let's stick with that good vibe. You're here, former assistant, worked with Corey. You got to find a story to tell our listeners, either to make us fall out of our chairs or to say, oh man, that guy Corey Baldwin. What do you got? You got some good Corey stories?
Well, this is more so I guess a Truett story. I had Corey all together, but my 1 year career there got, it started, but I almost thought it was going to finish before it even got started. And I shared this story with him. So when I come there and they show me around and show me where I'm going to be living, they showed me a student apartment that was decorated, and it was one of the women coach was staying there. And anybody who knows, know women are going to decorate a little bit better than men. It was nicely put together. It smelled well, potpourri. Like I walked in there like, this is a pretty nice little situation. So when I get back 2 weeks,
I could live here. I could live here.
I could live here. I could do this. So I get back 2 weeks later, and that's hot, man. It's in, start of August, man. It's hot up there in North Georgia. So I got my truck. I drive in. I'm in the unit right beside the one I saw. And I walk in, man, and man, first off, it's hot. Hadn't been no AC ran in there probably in, the summer. Whoever lived in it prior to me, they probably left in like May. They cleaned up the best they could, but nobody probably had been in there since then. And so it's hot when I walk in, Cyril, and man, I look around and I don't see the nice sofa that I saw when I came. It doesn't smell like potpourri. I go upstairs and I literally, man, I sit on my bed for probably an hour and a half. I haven't unpacked anything. I'm like, holy smoke, like, what did I get myself into? Like, I don't see any Atlanta, I don't see any, it's very little civilization out there in Cleveland. So I kid him all the time. I said, man, I was about 30 minutes from, man, getting back in the truck and calling him, telling him, man, I don't know, but nevertheless, man, shortly after that, he and his wife came and introduced me and welcomed me in and helped me get my stuff spruced up and took me out for a nice dinner. And after that, man, it was it was unbelievable, man. And it was a great, great year. So, but it almost ended as fast as it started.
All right, I've got 3 more Truett questions, Corey, for Coach here. You talk about going out to dinner. Corey and Amanda, wonderful human beings. Did you ever have breakfast off the Corey griddle? Did you ever get any?
No, I don't
I didn't
recall.
cook it like that back then.
Yeah, I don't recall that, but I'll tell you this. Miss Amanda would bring every Saturday morning, man. She would bring me the best chicken biscuits. I don't know if I've ever eaten. For a place that didn't have a whole lot going on in terms of whatever little restaurants that she was going to, man, she always delivered big time on those breakfasts. So they took care of me, man. With that stuff and and making sure I ate. I had a meal card deal. I could go to the cafe and eat, but man, every time that she would bring food over, man, it was something special, man. She had fried Oreos too. I don't know if they still have those, but she the fried Oreos, and those were amazing. So man, they took care of me in those regards.
Always looking out. Well, now, what did you learn from Corey while you were there, and what did you teach him? What's something you brought to the table? And Corey, you might be able to answer that one. But what did you teach each other during that year?
For me, man, and I kind of had kind of elaborate on it earlier. Like, it was an unbelievable experience for me. In terms of breaking into coaching, being able to work for CP. And I can't tell you one thing I learned, but I can tell you that I learned a lot of stuff. Like, I learned, how to run a program. You start at a place like True McConnell. I tell people all the time, like, we were assistant coach. I was an assistant coach. I was a guidance counselor. I was a weight coach. All of that stuff, man. I was, helped with fundraising. Like, I remember going into the town and talking to different people about donations into the program. As a fundraiser. You recruit, you do your basketball stuff too. But man, I just learned so much in terms of how you run a program, and it's essentially, man, you got 2 people to do all that stuff. Like, and so that part of it to me was an amazing thing, and it really helped me learn. And the other thing it really did, and Corey was unbelievable at this, and he's so well plugged and connected in the state of Georgia, it allowed me to be able to go out and recruit and go to some to learn a pretty good area in the country of recruiting. Like, Atlanta's a basketball hotbed, and man, he would encourage me to get the school van and the card and go. And that was my thing, man. Like, I would love to go to these high schools and games, so on and so forth, man. So I learned a lot. I learned that, some of the landscape of the Atlanta high school basketball during that time. I got familiar with a lot of those schools. I love Gwinnett County. That stems from those days at Truett. That was the closest Atlanta hot spot for me to get to. CB is a Clayco guy, and I would do the Clayco trips with him. But I used to love being able to get in the car and go to some of those places, and I just learned a great deal about the high school landscape in Georgia during that stretch. I would always, my thing on Friday nights, man, I would always get in the car and go to a high school football game. I saw some big time players, man. From Gainesville to Buford to so on and so forth, man, during those stretch. So I learned a lot. Like I said, that was a perfect first job and intro to coaching for me, because just so many, I got to experience so many different things, jumping in a van, driving guys to play at, Summer Hill in Cartersville. Like, it just was, that experience, man, it was unbelievable, man. And just seeing those guys, you mean, this is crazy, but like, we would go play those games sometime, man. Those guys would light up when we would take them to Zaxby's. Like, I've never seen dudes like Zaxby's so much, man. But that was kind of our thing, man. We jump in the van, go play games, win some games, come back, take the team to Zaxby's or to the varsity or whatever. Just kind of seeing those kids' faces and those expressions during those times, man. So I learned, man. I credit, being in this business and the little bit of success I've had to that year I spent at True McConnell.
Wow, how about that? I love to hear that. And then, you go out to fundraise and you think about that moment at Zaxby's where the players are enjoying it at that level. You're gonna keep asking, hey, I'm gonna go to the next business and say, this really does matter. This really does count. So Corey, you opened with this statement here. thanking in a way, Eric, about you still being in coaching. If he hadn't been there, you might not be in coaching anymore. Is that something you can kind of expand on and share here for our listeners? How that fell into place with you two as Corey, you moved on, and Eric, you had his back, and those pieces.
Well, you know, when you I was at a fork in the road. They were going 4-year. I don't think they were really planning on me to be the 4-year coach. And I was, you know, kind of knowing that was making it tough. But because of Eric's was so, you know, just in tune, not only to the season, but into just becoming a coach. And like he said, maybe more than anybody I've had some pretty good assistants, but he was the best at, like, if I said, hey, this is something that'll help you, he never like looked back. You know, he did it. And I remember one of the things I told him was, you know, use this year to learn, you know, go learn Georgia, recruit the heck out of all the good places. And, you know, if we're somebody we're looking at, try to go recruit them when they're playing South Atlanta with Derek Favors, or try to recruit them when they're playing Norcross, you know, so you can be around the bigger boys too, and bump elbows and learn people and this, that, and the other from those high school programs and the guys there recruiting. And man, he not only did it, he did it to the extreme, you know, and that helped him a lot. And that just that eagerness and excitement that he had kind of refreshed me and kept me going, you know, during a real tough year. You know, it was kind of a dead man walking year almost. You know, wasn't sure, but kind of looked like some things may come. And I was having to kind of look, and that's not really what I like to do. I like to just coach my team and not be one of those looking for another job. And I was having to during that time, and that made it bearable. And I tell you this, we're talking about things we learned. I still, you know, because Eric was so observant a lot of times, you know, as a player, and you know, when he came to us, he did some things with the posts that they did, you know, Larry Hunter did, or that Western Carolina did, and I still use some of them. It's funny, him and Ty Anderson both who have been assistants with me. I had kind of kept doing a lot of the post stuff that they did, you know, kind of, because I always liked, he had the crab dribble drill. I always liked that going across the court. Yeah. We still do that today. You know, I'd never seen that until I saw him do it. I was like, man, it makes a lot of sense. Take us, where do we go next?
You know, after the whole Truett thing, which again, you know, when Coach left, man, you know, I remember that day just so vividly. You know, this is, you know, I think the one thing too that I remember from that is being able to actively help those dudes. We had to help those dudes get schools, man, and so, you know, that was a big thing, being able to help our sophomores continue to move on and so on and so forth. So that might have been the proudest moment I had, was taking those guys to different schools, those guys committing and so on and so forth. But from that point, I was trying to figure it out. You know, obviously that I liked, you know, I really had loved coaching, and obviously I wanted to stay in it. And so I was trying to figure out what route to go next. Crazy as kept, I actually had interviewed for a GA spot at Georgia College, Millersville, Georgia. Made that ride to Millersville, and you know, thought I was gonna get it, and end up didn't getting it first time, and then it came back open, and I talked to the guy again. But by that particular point, I had to connect with Coach Hunter and the staff that I had just played for, and he at the time didn't have a spot. They just, at that particular junction, they had 3 assistants. He didn't have a spot, but he told me, you know, if you want to come be a part of the staff, you want to get, you know, continue to break into coaching, you can come be my director of operations. It isn't paid anything. So you have to figure out financially how you're gonna make it happen, living and so on and so forth. But if there's something you want to do, you know, you can come back home. And so I thought about it, and you know, I had to figure out the financial part of it, and working some side jobs and some night jobs and some early morning jobs and all kind of jobs in between. But I just felt like it was a good situation, good opportunity for me. And I got back. Obviously, I was able to work for, you know, for the guy I coached, who coached me. The assistants, the staff that we had there at the time were unbelievable guys. Earl McCollum was a true catamount, had been there, had coached me when I played there. Andre Gray was there. He phenomenal. He's been a big time mentor for me over the duration of my career. And then we had a guy by the name of Wade O'Connor, who was also a big time coach, who left and went to the tournament with Morehead State, was at Tennessee. So I got to be around some unbelievable dudes. And during that year in which I was the operations man, them dudes, took me under their wing. Gray, took me on his wing and taught me the game, taught me the business, and that's kind of how the Western Carolina thing got started.
So working for a guy you played for, I did the same thing, and Earl was actually there while I was doing it. But I know that's kind of interesting because he's still coach to you. How was some of that journey? And I know you ended up moving up from operations. I kind of ruining the story here, but tell us a little bit about that as you tell us how that went.
It was a kind of a culture shock for me at first because, once you start, like your experience as a player and a staff member, they night and day. And so, I had to learn, I had to really learn how to be a coach for Larry and what he liked and how he operated. And the way he operated in front of us as players was a little bit different than he did with his staff, and just understanding how. And that's why the attention to detail even was magnified by 100 when you got on staff with him. And being the operations man, I dealt with him a lot in terms of I and Coach McCullum, man, in terms of our day-to-day operation, our travel, our budget, our meals, and so on and so forth. And when I say Larry's a stickler and he is super, super detail oriented and what he wants, how he wants to get done, that's probably an understatement. So I had to learn that part of it for him and learn how he worked and how he ticked. But our relationship was always good because I think he had such great respect for me in terms of how I worked and my day-to-day grind and what I was about as a person. And I had the same for him. And so we always just really had a good vibe and a good mesh in terms of how we worked. So that part of it was just, I guess, the day-to-day part. The office out, like, Coach Hunter being at 6:30 a.m., like, and he was like every day, no days off. Like he was a grinder. And so kind of learning that part of the business, just learning how to work and operate for him was kind of the biggest jump from being a player for him and then obviously being a staff member for him.
Keep going for us, Eric. So you learned all those skills. Somebody like Larry Hunter teaches you that, Corey, and all the stuff. You got to true it. You got to touch all parts of a program. What's your next step, and what from those two experiences are you taking with you?
So after that year, like I said, and I have to credit the staff that I worked with at Western a lot because those guys saw what I wanted to do and what I wanted to become, and they slowly but surely gave me a little more rope, and allowed me to do some things. Gray was influential in that, in terms of that dude is just plugged in the state of North Carolina in terms of recruiting as they come. And so him giving me some contacts here or there and allowing me to run with it and do some things. And then him sitting down with me and looking at a scouting report and all right, take me through the scouting report and show me what you see, show me what you see. And I want you to do underneath out of bounds plays. So kind of gave me a little bit of stuff bit by bit on top of what I was doing as an operation that kind of really tried to help me kind of be ready to become a coach. After that particular year, I had an opportunity to move on and leave and go take a job as a Division II assistant at Fayetteville State. And I was unbelievably happy and excited. It wasn't a lot of money, but like I told you a little bit ago, I was working at Western for free. So anything anybody was gonna give me was a plus. And so I was taking grad school classes at during the time. And so I felt like if I had taken a Division II opportunity that I might not finish school. So I decided I said, I'm gonna hold out and I'm gonna do one more year. learn as much as I can one more year, be under coach and Gray and O'Connor and Coach McCullum for one more year, and then I'll see what the business, what happens after that. And that happened in June. And at that particular time, I'll never forget it. I was working, I told you I had some part-time jobs. I was working at a bookstore at a community college in town. And Coach Gray, Andre Gray, called me one afternoon, and we were talking, and he was like, "Are you ready to work?" I was like, "What you mean I'm ready to work?" He's like, Are you ready to be a coach? Like, you ready to work? And I'm like, hey, absolutely. Like, where? Like, I'm just asking what's the situation? And he's like, man, I think Wade O'Connor is opportunity to get out of here. Like, and if he does, I'm gonna tell Larry, that you ready to go. And I had the support from him and Anquel McCullum the same. And I never forget, I'm leaving the bookstore that night, and I get home, and Coach calls me and said he wanted to meet with me in the morning. And my first response was, how early? Because I know the morning for him is crazy early. And we might have met at about 7:30 in the morning. I told him I had a shift at the bookstore. I had to be there at 9. So we met about 7:30. And he told me what was happening and that could be a possibility and what I'd be in, and long story short, a week later, I'm an assistant coach at my alma mater. So it happened kind of fast. And, by the grace of God, it was just one of those things that I couldn't even have imagined. And so now I'm on the road working for Larry, and I'm working with, two really, really good dudes, and kind of where we went from there.
It goes back to your playing days, right? You come in as a walk-on, you're grinding, you're diving on the floor, you don't have a name on your jersey, and then you get the name on the jersey, and then you get the scholarship. Hey, you work your tail off. This is a common thread. Hard work plus the good people around you, good things happen. And we see it evolving there for you, even if you did work for Corey.
I always say, my true now, that's my highlight. And I love it in TMC Bears. So my year there, man. That's up there with it. Any of the stuff I done got done, man. Getting through a year in Cleveland, now that's pretty high level. So I'm excited about that. I always hang my hat on it on my true years.
All right. So now you how long were you on the road for Western Carolina? How many years?
I did 4 years as an assistant there. And man, it was unbelievable. Like the biggest part about that is when I got the job, I had guys that I was coaching were my teammates, a handful of years ago. So the freshman class, I think, or the sophomore class that I played with, I was coaching those dudes. So that was weird. In itself, guys that you, not only the basketball part of it, but I think about guys that you hung out with off the floor, that you in the locker room with, on the road with, on the bus with. Now you wearing a different hat, and now you're coaching those dudes. So that was a unique experience. But I was there for 4 years as an assistant, and man, it was a great 4 years. I think that when Coach Hunt had got there when I was playing, I think we kind of had laid the groundwork and kind of set the seed for what we wanted that program to be. And I got to kind of be a part of that as a student athlete. But then 6 years later, I kind of got to see what the fruits of our labor were from that, and kind of where that program had gotten to. And we were rolling. We had we had won 20 plus games, twice during that run. We had advanced to 2 Southern Conference championship games in that run. We had won 2 North Division titles. So it was like I said, it was special to kind of see the growth of that program through that time. I regret, that's one of my, probably one of the only regrets I have in my deal is we were so close to getting to the NCAA tournament there. And something that only happened one time in the existence of that program. And we were in 2 championship games in 4 years. And we were just, I think we might have lost both games by a total of like 4 points. So we were so close to getting over the hump. And I knew how much Coach wanted that for that program. And obviously it would have been pretty cool for us as well as assistants, 2 alumni on the staff there were 3 at that time. And so it was a family deal in terms of us there. And, that's probably one of the one regrets that I have in the biz, like not being able to get over that hump with the Cats. But it was a great 4 years, man. Learned a lot. We won a good bit of games, got to recruit some good players, built some great relationships. not only in the locker room, but with the administration, with the community in Cullowhee. And it was cool, man. I got there in Cullowhee when I was 18 years old, and then I left. I had 1 year away with Corey, but I left at 28. So I got to spend, I spent 10 years at a place, and, you fall in love with a place like that.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So now you end up leaving there. That had to be kind of tough because Larry was still coaching at the time.
That was a tough conversation to have. But I just kind of felt like for where I was at that particular junction in my career, where I had been, I just felt like I needed to move on. It was time to learn something else, something new. Again, I had been there for essentially 10 years of my life. My basketball, my basketball background was mainly what I learned and what I knew from Western Carolina and from Larry. And so I wanted the opportunity to try to do something different, try to learn from someone else and try to move on and do something different. And man, I was blessed again and unbelievably fortunate to be able to land and link up with LaVelle Moulton. And I was at North Carolina Central for 4 years. The Western Carolina move there was it was different, man. It was a totally different vibe, totally different atmosphere, totally different city. You go from living in the rural mountains of Cullowhee, North Carolina, to I called it the big city bright lights of Durham and Raleigh. And that was something too, man, that I really enjoyed as well. Kind of being a younger guy and kind of being in the mountains for a couple of years. So it was a treat. But I was blessed, man, to be able to link up with LaVelle in North Carolina Central.
Why? What's so great about LaVelle, the way he is? Yes, social media presence, people follow him and know kind of the vibe. But what was the best part for you? From the learning, from the feel, from the hoops, all of that?
It was, Cyril, it's probably all of that stuff you mentioned, the mixing of all. Like,
I got to stop giving people answers and just ask the question. Tell us about the vibe.
That dude is unbelievably gifted, man, at coaching the game of basketball. Like, he is just his mind and the way he ticks and operates, the way he sees the game, the way he articulates the game. It's like he's moving at a different speed than everyone else. And that's kind of the one thing I learned from him when I first got there is, I could study a film for an hour. It'd take me an hour to get the answer to the test. He could watch it for 10 minutes. And we both come up with the same conclusion, but he just did it he did it 90% faster than I could. And so the program that I walked into, man, he had it rolling. He's a high level coach, high level individual. And the thing that I most learned about myself from there is he allowed me to grow and be a coach. When I worked for Larry, Larry was the figurehead of that deal, and he kind of ran the show. And LaVelle is the same way, but LaVelle ushered me and groomed me into, he's like, one day you're gonna want to be a head coach. So that one day he's gonna start the day. And so like he pretty much would put me in situations to where I had to be the head coach. I had to be the head coach of scouting or the head coach of recruiting or head coach of our conditioning program. And he put me in a lot of those leadership roles, which allowed me to grow into in my coaching career. And so I'm unbelievably thankful for my time with him and what I learned and how he operates. But the guy's a gifted basketball mind. And obviously I think the world knows that. And he's had a ton of success in terms of games he won and play and all that good stuff. So, man, I was blessed, man. That was a fun, unbelievable 4 years working for him in North Carolina Central.
Now, how many tournaments did y'all go to? 2 or 3 national tournaments?
When I was with them, we went to 3 consecutive tournaments.
Wow.
Then the year that I left, they went again, but it was a COVID year. So, I always tell them guys, and those are a lot of my guys that was on their team, you got a chance to go do 4 tournament teams, 4 championship teams, man. So it was, man, and you don't really understand or appreciate it until you out of it and you get to look back on those experiences. Because when you're in it, you win it, you trying to get ready for the next one. Like, I don't know if we ever enjoyed it as a group while we were in it, but now I'm away from them. which I still talk to those guys pretty regularly. And now we can rehash and reflect on that journey and what that was like, man. That was an unbelievable ride, man. Three tournaments, and we won them all different ways, and the teams were different, and we coached them different. It was magical, man. And like I said, I was highly blessed and favored to be able to be a part of that journey with them.
Hey, talk about the pressures of your Western Carolinas, your NC Centrals, your schools that it's one game to go to the tournament and you lost the two at Western. How do you manage that for the team? How do you deal with it as a coach when it's all on the line in that one game or that 1 week of the tournament?
Yeah, man, I think the one thing that I kind of learned from it all is just you try to prepare those guys for that moment throughout the year, and you kind of, we used to always say, especially with Lavelle, like when we got to the tournament, when we got the conference play, we understood, man, it was 13 dogs chasing one bone. And so you had to be, you had to be sharp, you had to be good. And the one thing that from both programs that I learned, in a one bid league, I think you have to be peaking at the right moment. And it's funny that the Western Carolina years, our 24 win season, we didn't make it to the championship game. And we thought that team peaked too soon. Like we were playing our best basketball with that team in January. And I think, we got to the highs of the high in January and then kind of tailed off, and we ended up losing maybe in the semis or something. And in those other years, the years that we went to the championship games, and then obviously the years at Central we won it, I thought both staffs and both coaches did an unbelievable job at the upward trend and making sure we were playing our best basketball when we needed to be. And that was the one thing about Lavelle. Obviously, we wanted to win every game that we played, but we walked into most gyms feeling like we could win every game. We had a team, especially at Central, we had a team that was built to do so. We were veteran laden. We were transfer dominant. We felt we were equipped to win, and we were. We went into gyms. We went into a lot of mid-major gyms. We went into high-major gyms. We won games. So, like, we wanted to win every game, but he understood the process and what it took to win the MEAC tournament and what we had to be and what it would look like. In the first year, he had to teach me, right, like what it felt like and what it would look like, to be a champion. And once we won that one, I kind of had that feeling, that vibe. And so those next two, like as it was going along through the year and it might get rocky and we might drop a couple games, but I could feel we were doing the right stuff to get to where we needed to get to. And lo and behold, we were able to get them done. And so, but we try to prepare those guys, I thought, throughout the year for what that one win tournament, that what it's like. And you have to be, playing your best basketball and peaking at the right time. And I think he is a master at making sure that his teams are doing that.
That's what it all comes down to. How about it? That's insightful. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
So now tell us, you end up deciding to leave there. I know that probably had to be tough with all that success. And like you said, the next year they made the tournament again. You knew you were going to be good again. So kind of walk us through that move and where it ended up being.
Yeah, it was, man. But the one thing like about Lavelle and he and I's relationship, man, he was one guy too that really, as a young guy, not only taught me about coaching, but he really was impactful in teaching me the business. Like he gave me a crash course about the business of college basketball on a daily basis. Like we talked a lot of X's and O's. We talked a lot about, family and so on and so forth and all that stuff. And then he also made it a point with me to talk to me about the progression and the growth in this business and kind of gave me a crash course in what college basketball coaching, the business part of it is like. And so every year, man, we would sit down and talk, and we would talk about, what do you think's next? What's the next move? What makes sense? Because he would always tell me, I'm not letting you leave here just to leave here. Like, you have to make sure every move is the best move and be strategic in what's going on. And so he was very influential, man, in making sure, kind of teaching me the game, so to speak, and making sure that I wasn't just doing something to be doing or wasn't just moving to be moving. Obviously, we had a good situation, a good thing going there. He used to always tell me, like, I'm not letting you leave just to take a job, to take one. So we talked every year. And then after that year, we talked on our discussions again. And a mutual friend kind of connected some dots, and the College of Charleston opportunity kind of presented itself, and that was one that, man, that's a unbelievable job, and with an unbelievable head coach. And so once Lavelle and I sat down and that thing kind of came to fruition, I'll never forget it. We were sitting in his office. He called me in. He's like, let's meet this morning, and we talked about it. And he got on the phone, called his wife, and said, he's out of here. And he gave me his blessing and said, man, you've done what you needed to do here, and this has helped you move on and be ready for this next job. And so being able to have that support from him and have the blessing and being able to, like I said, learn from him all aspects of the business, basketball, the business, like I was much better as a coach and as a young man leaving that program, when I got there. So he kind of endorsed, man, the opportunity to go down into the College of Charleston.
So what was working for Earl Grant like? I know he's probably a lot different than Lavelle and Larry. He's more defensive oriented. So give us a little bit of that.
He's a guy, man, like he really, really, really has climbed his way up, from the bottom. And I mean climb, he's climbed. He's taking the stairs too. There ain't been no elevator approach. Like, from his playing career as a big time, like that dude can still play right now. Like probably one of the most athletic coaches I've ever been around. Like, but being a big time player at Georgia College to, to his career starting there as a GA to his days at the Citadel to Winthrop to whatever, like he's really worked and climbed his way up but hard-nosed defensive guy, but that's his mentality in terms of how he operates. And I got some of that kind of in me too. That kind of goes back to the Larry Hunter thing, how we connected, how we vibed. And Earl was the same way in terms of his thought process. And he's a grinder, he's a worker. He's, he always tells us we ain't the sexiest group, man, but we're gonna get out there and we're gonna work. So he has a really a tough-minded, hard-nosed defensive approach to the way he operates and the way he coaches. I learned that from him. And the other thing about him, man, Earl is probably, it ain't probably, man, he's probably, he's one of the best human beings that I think I've ever been around. Like just a great person. Not to say that the other guys, and I've been able to work for some other unbelievable people, obviously Larry and Lavelle and our family, and but Earl is right there in the mix too, man. Just a great human being to be around, and that was and I was blessed to be able to be a part of that staff and that program, for the 2 years that I was there.
Here's a tough question about the business. So wonderful human, great experience for you, great relationship, and he moves on and you don't have the opportunity to go. How does that shake out? How much can you share with us on those conversations, on that process? Because there's a reason behind it, right? And it's not personal.
Yeah, it ain't. And that's the part of, that's the business part of it. It's a beautiful profession. You get to, be in basketball and impact young lives and so on and so forth, and get to travel and be around the games. It's a beautiful profession, but it's a bad business sometimes. And just, unfortunate for us on the staff, we just kind of got caught, in the kind of the crossfire, the business part of it. But during that whole thing, during that whole process, the first part of it is you're unbelievably excited and happy for him. Again, when you see a guy, and I was able to work for Earl for 2 years, but I kind of followed his career. He's a South Carolina guy. He's a guy that you always saw in gyms, you always saw working. And when I was assistant at Western Carolina and other places, even in my truer days, you would see him walk in the gym like you knew there was something different about him. And so he was a guy that I always was intrigued by and always followed, from my earlier years in coaching. When he was at Wichita and at Clemson, I used to always see him in gyms and be like, man, that dude, like, you could tell there was something different about that guy. And so having the opportunity to work for him, man, it was big time. And so the first thing about it, like, you're just excited for him. Like, that's an unbelievable opportunity, well-deserved. He worked extremely hard to position himself for that. And so you're excited, that someone that you're close to and that you share a lot of love for has the opportunity. Now the business side of it, comes into play because you're like, God, dog, like you would, obviously want to be a part of that deal as well. But just because of the job, and you know, and region it was in, and kind of how it kind of unfolded, you're just not, that ain't in the cards for you in those regards, and that didn't, it doesn't change our relationship at all. Still got a lot of love for him, and I still stand by all the things I've ever said about him in terms of just one of the best people that I've ever been around. And but he was, I know it was a tough deal for him to go through that as well. But he was great in terms of you know, talking and making sure that I was good on the back end, and making sure that I was going to be, taken care of as well. So, but that's just the business, the business part of it, and it happens. Happens a lot, and so you just got to kind of be prepared for whatever, whatever curveballs the business throw at you, and kind of be able to act accordingly. And and I was able to obviously land here, so that's kind of how it all played out.
So tell us here, you're now at.
Oh,
Tell us about
Present
how you got.
Yeah.
So you got a fresh steering.
The blue hose, yeah. And what you obviously learn in this profession, man, this thing is all about relationships. And a relationship that I had made years and years ago, with Quentin Farrell. He and I kind of started the business kind of around the same time. He was working for Greg Nybert here at PC. I was working for Larry Hunter at Western Carolina, and we both were kind of young assistants, kind of trying to find our way in the business. And we had kind of, bumped heads, rubbed elbows at some different gyms, and recruited some of the similar players, and kind of had just struck up a relationship that kind of started, like I said, about 12 years ago. And, always checked in on each other throughout the years, and, see each other out on the roads, and, I would call him about South Carolina players or players that he might know about in his area, his region. He would do the same with me. And like I said, it was just a friendship that kind of grew and grew and grew and developed over the years, into where we talked quite a bit throughout the years. And a lot of times it wasn't even about basketball. It's how you got two small kids, I got two small kids. How and it just, like I said, it kind of grew into more. We became really, really close over the handful of years. And I watched him move and maneuver through his career, through his stops, from the Citadel to Army to Charleston, and the success that he had at all those programs. And then he done the same for me. And so we just came really close. And God works in mysterious ways. And I don't think either of us would have ever thought when we met 10, 12 years ago that we'd be working together, here. But that's just kind of how God worked. And over the summer, I was talking to some different schools and different situations, and he and I talked all the time anyway. And just so happened, man, out of the blue, nothing that he had planned or nothing that neither of us had planned, he had an opening come up on his staff. And he kind of jokingly slid it out there one day, like, "Hey, man, like I might have a movement, man. If you down, man, we'd love to have you at PC." And I didn't think it was serious at all, man. I was like, man, you just whatever. And kind of a week later, it happened. And once it did, man, it was an easy. Just because of who I was working for, what he's about, what he's building, the kind of program that he's put together. It was something that I was wanting to be a part of. And so it's neat. Like I said, the business part of it, this is a part of the business that, like I said, that's neat, is to watch one of your close friends develop and grow into a head coach. And then now you obviously have an opportunity to sit alongside him and help him build this thing and help him, take this program to the next level. So that's something that we're both excited about, that I'm excited about. I love the staff that we have here. Nick Lagroon is an unbelievable guy. He's got some Georgia in him too. Got a CB story as well. I almost worked for Coach too as well. He's got
He worked for me
one day. Yeah, one day. Yeah. So we talk about that from time to time. We have Tom Tankowitz over here, which is another neat story. I was able to coach Tom at Western Carolina, and now helped him get his first job as an assistant here at PC. So the staff, man, I get to work around some really great people. I get to work for one of my best friends in the business, and then I get to be around some pretty cool young men as well. So we're excited. I'm excited about what's being built here, and I'm just happy to be a part of and to help get this program to the next level.
All right. So now that takes us to where you're at. So we go into the lightning round. Me and Searle ask you 3 apiece. Here are quick questions. As always, we encourage name dropping and storytelling, but we'll have a shot clock on these a little bit. But all right, go. You want to start it, Searle, this time? I always start it. I'll end it this time.
Oh, well, I know where you're going with yours. Here's the questions from me.
Okay.
Let's go quickly through. You mentioned Earl being one of the best players, or still being one of the best players as far as the head coaches. Who is the best player after Steph Curry that you've played against?
Oh, that's pretty easy. Eric Gordon, Indiana. He was as good or better as advertised. He was unbelievable, man. He got me on a couple of YouTubes that I don't wish to share, but that guy was a phenomenal player, man, and obviously still doing it at a high level in the NBA.
Right, exactly. How about when you're now coaching, when you're scouting, you're doing the reports, who's the best player you had to prepare for, and how did you craft that game plan?
Oh man, I don't know if I guess the best. I'm gonna do the most recent. I think the most recent guy when I was at Charleston, William Mary has a guy by the name of Nathan Knight, who was a part of the Atlanta Hawks roster this past year. Man, that guy. Any college basketball or guys, man, go Google Nathan Knight, William Mary. Like, that guy's one of the best low post players that I've ever seen. And so we actually split with him at Charleston. In the first game, we tried to game plan. We're gonna take Nathan away, you're gonna do this in the third, and he had 20 plus, and they beat us. And then after that, I just felt like we ain't about to stop this dude, so let's try to stop everybody else. And so he scored 30 something that night, but we beat him. So I guess the game plan worked out. But most recent player, yeah, Nathan Knight, William Mary, man, he's one of the best low post players that I've come across in college basketball.
All right, that's a good one right there. Now you're driving around the whole Southeast recruiting. What are you listening to in the car? Podcasts? What's the favorite one? Audio books? What are you listening to?
Oh man, honestly, sir, I'm a music guy, so I'm probably listening to either I'm on the phone trying to talk to some people, or I've got some kind of playlist playing. I try to stay hip to the time. So I have my players send me all what they're listening to in the locker rooms and what they listen to before practice, and I'll put together playlists. And so normally it's one of those two things. It's either some playlist that one of my guys has sent me, talking to coaches and whatnot, like you guys, or probably one of those two things.
So what's at the top of the playlist right now as you stay hip? You're talking like you're 65 years old here, but
right now, man, right now the guys got me on Lil Baby. They like him out of Atlanta, so I'm playing him a lot. Obviously, Drake has just dropped a new album, so that's kind of been a discussion in our locker room. Who else? The new Kanye album has been a topic of discussion.
Yeah, there you go.
So those kind of the guys. And so I kind of try to stay, I listen to what those guys put me on to.
All right. Last one from me here, and back to the basketball side of things. If you're making the call, is your team playing zone or are you playing man? Obviously, there'll be change ups or whatnot, but what's your pick?
Man to man, full court, get out there. I want some of that True McConnell, South Georgia State press. I want to get out there 94 feet. So that's easy. We're gonna go man to man.
All right, I love it. E, thanks, man.
Let's go. Best place to eat when you're in the mountains of Western Carolina.
Ooh.
What's the one place, local spot you're gonna take somebody to?
I'm in the Western North Carolina. I'm gonna go to Nick and Nate's, Dillsboro, Silver, North Carolina. I'm gonna give you two. I'm gonna go Nick and Nate's for the hot wings. And then I'm gonna go a place called Bogart's. We used to do a lot of pregame meals there, but those are two local establishments there in the Silver Dillsboro area. So if you ever passing through those areas, man, you gotta go to Nick and Nate's or Bogart's. Two big time places.
Have you been to either of those with Dre Gray?
Yeah, we've had some Nick and Nate times. Dre, Dre likes his wings and his Pepsi. So yeah, we've been to both of those spots.
But that's why it rings a bell, because he was talking about it on the podcast a couple episodes ago.
Yeah. Me and Dre was my, that was my food guy on the road. Like we would always and it's a funny story about Dre. We would always he's the only dude, he loves Chick-fil-A chocolate chunk cookies. So he would trade you his sandwich for one of your Chick-fil-A chocolate chunk cookies. So if you ever see him on the road and you want to get in good graces with him, bring him a Chick-fil-A chocolate
Have
chunk.
a little bag of
He'll
cookies,
trade
huh?
about anything in his pocket for one of them. So that was my guy on the road. I would get an extra sandwich and he'd get an extra cookie.
That's funny. All right. So now give us your favorite spot to eat when you go to Atlanta a lot, recruiting, especially in Gwinnett. Give us a spot you're gonna eat down there when you stop through. Do you have a place?
Taco Mac. We don't have those in North Carolina, so all them, the Atlanta guys that I hang with, and there's a contingency of Atlanta coaches. There's a bunch of y'all boys everywhere, but a couple guys that I'm close with.
Yeah.
Anytime we get together, most of the time we get together, if it's on a recruiting trail or at one of them big time AAU events down there in Atlanta, if we all ever get together, man, it's either at the Taco Mac or the other one is Papa Do's. So those are the two spots. If I can, so those are the two Atlanta spots that I'll get to.
All right. And then I've been asking this one lately with our guests. I kind of like it. What's the one time in coaching where you kind of felt like you got humbled a little bit? Whether it's being out on the road and a coach maybe not knowing who you are, or somebody trying to charge you to get into an AAU event or something like that, not knowing who you are.
I was that's a good one right there. I was at an event. I went out to recruit in the Midwest. I want to say I was recruiting it may have been in Chicago, or might have been an event in Milwaukee. That's what it was, an event in Milwaukee. I was recruiting for I was in North Carolina Central, and I walk into the gym and and I'm fresh off of 2 straight, I think, NCAA tournament appearances. So you walk in the gym and it's a group of guys, we're waiting to get in, and we're, getting our packets and our books together. And I'm with a group of dudes that I knew, obviously, and we talk and walk through, and I get to the front and I pay for my stuff. And she said, "What school are you with?" And I said, "North Carolina Central." She said, "Is that Division III or Division II?" And the guys that I was with kind of bust out laughing, just jokingly. And I'm and one of my guys, he's like, "Ma'am, they've only won 2 consecutive MEAC championships." And I explained to the lady it was Division I and so on and so forth. But yeah, I was she didn't even know what level or whatnot about. So that was kind of a humbling, funny experience there on one of the road trips.
We always like our guests to close it out. Anybody out there you want to thank or anything you want to add to what we've done, go ahead.
Oh, well, first, you guys, appreciate you both. This is pretty neat. And obviously, I've known UCB forever, and I've heard about you, Cyril, a lot. We all connected, some way, form, or fashion. So CB talks about you quite a bit. So first is thank you guys, obviously, for having me. And then I just kind of want to be able to thank all the people who have given me opportunities I work for. Obviously starting with the late great, the CB, and then the late great Larry Hunter. Miss him and him, and on to Lavelle. That's my guy and family for life, and I appreciate him for his opportunities, and EG, wishing him nothing but the best at BC, and have great respect, and I'm very thankful for him. And then last but not least, man, my guy here, Quentin Farrell, guy, like I said, I've been knowing for a long time, man, who's we developed a really good close friendship, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity he's given me here. And so I've been blessed. I'm thankful, man. The business has been, basketball has been good to me, and then in the time that I've been in it, and I'm just excited about this upcoming season and then what the future holds.
Good stuff. Hey, thanks for those words. Thanks for mentioning some of those people along the way. and we'll be following PC as the season advances. And for everybody out there watching, listening, make sure you follow us too on Instagram, Off the Beaten Path Podcast, and on Twitter, Off Beaten Path with a little underscore as we start to wrap up the show here. Corey?
All right, we're a show for coaches who want to coach, those who used to coach, those who are still in coaching, and those who hire and fire the coaches. And we enjoyed having Eric on here. Great catching up. It's always great to hear from me.
Thank you.